From the twisted realm of science and the darkest pits of reason comes chilling tales of godlessness. Bear witness to the unfathomable terror that is the Good Atheist.
How can I describe you? What's the Atheist, basically?
The Atheist?
Is that what we had called you last time?
I thought so,
Yeah.
but I thought it was taken. I don't know.
It is taken.
We'll go with
We
Atheist.
could bring it back. Ooh,
Well,
it's
we
taken.
have no-
Someone thought of it.
We have no morals, so stealing is not something that we would avoid anyway.
I'll tell you something. There used to be thegoodatheist.blogspot.com site, and that wasn't mine. But I kicked his ass.
Damn right. To the curb!
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's one of those. It's one of those things that names keep appearing and reappearing. You can't always be creative. Hey, there's a limited amount of words out there, man.
This is true.
And besides, is the Gaytheist really as fabulous as you are, Jeffrey?
I doubt it. You have to be pretty fabulous. You got to get up pretty early in the morning to
be
out
this
fabulous me.
Yeah.
Although in this humidity, my hair is pretty flat.
It is. We are having currently a hot. What do they call them? A heat wave?
Oh,
I guess that's what they're called. We don't usually get them very often.
Not a warm
heat
front,
wave.
but
Heat wave.
Yeah, heat wave. Yeah, that works.
Heat wave. I think that was a.
Yeah, burning in my heart. Yeah, it's,
There you go.
Was it the Marvelettes? I can't remember.
You know what? I don't know music that
My
well.
Motown knowledge is limited.
I am not good with music. On my last podcast, one of the things that I had said, this is on the fightlinker.com. This is for the MMA one, but I mentioned something I just wanted to bring up briefly. I just realized one thing, that I need to get connected with more quote-unquote mavens. You know what a maven is?
That's my fancy way of saying I don't remember.
Okay,
I've heard the term, but
Yeah, the term maven is, as I've been described, is basically someone who is really good at finding information on a specific topic and disseminating that information. And one of the things that I realized is that I don't have. You used to be somewhat my music maven. You were the one who was introducing me to different bands.
yeah.
And I realized, I have no curiosity to go out and seek new music.
Yeah.
But I got to find someone who's even more into music than you are, like a true music maven.
Hey, the only
how
reason
awesome
I'm
would that be?
the only reason I'm not into music right now is because I have very limited internet.
Yeah, that's
you can't
right.
Go downloading freaking albums on an iPhone data plan.
Well, let's briefly talk about this. Here's a hilarious thing. I had asked Jeff to come and do a show. I wanted to him to come and do a show, but this man disappeared off the face of the earth, and that's just basically because his internet went down. And you know what? I'm not going to give you too much, guff, because if my internet went down, I'd probably disappear too.
Yeah, there you go. It just happens, man. You forget how much this attaches you to the rest of the world.
Well, I am this is pretty much my gigantic ball and chain now.
Yeah,
It is I would say that it is a golden cage, but it is a cage nevertheless.
Yeah.
You cannot take your eye off the ball on the internet, my friend. You do that for 2-3 days, and you miss.
You're behind.
You're behind. You miss the big news. Hey, did you hear? Hear about what?
Oh,
Oh my
man.
God, you don't know.
Exactly. No, it's just, when I was first starting with my website, it's the same thing. You don't pay attention for 2 days, and suddenly what the hell?
Well, there's always some kind of
Shit's
new
always
scandal just
happening.
across the corner. Lucky thing though is that most people have a pretty short memory for that stuff, so
Yeah.
you can be off for a while, but you can come back.
Yeah.
Glorious comeback. Of course, at first, whenever you come back, they always
You get a
people
little flack.
scrutinize you, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"What happened, man?" And you
Seriously.
say, "Well, I couldn't afford my internet anymore." Because I had previously been scamming the internet company.
Hey. Those are your
Scamming
words,
are
not mine.
Allegedly.
They can't prove anything.
It
My
was
name wasn't on
you know
those
what it
bills.
was? You know what it was? It was a loop. It was one of those, not a loop,
It was a
but
glorious loophole.
a loophole. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a glorious, magically exploited loophole.
and I think that you took that for granted.
I did.
You
But
really did,
well, I
didn't you?
can't really say too much. What was it, half a year of unlimited internet for free?
It's not bad.
No, I think it was more
I
than
think
that.
that
It's
the-
like a year and 2 months.
Why can't that be the whole world? Why can't we all
Yeah.
have free internet?
Why can't we all scam free internet?
Okay, let's get into the topics that I
Sure.
wanted to cover. Number one, I don't know if anybody out there heard about this. There was a New Zealand woman who, she had died a little while ago. I think this was 6 or 7 months ago, and there was 5 people that basically were charged with manslaughter. And what these people did was they were convinced that Mrs. Moses, that's her name. I didn't catch the first part of her name. I don't know if they mentioned it in the article, but whatever. We'll call her M. Moses. Moses. So Moses
Mimosa
was
Wait,
apparently,
that's not
I don't know, she had stolen a statue from a hotel.
Yeah.
It's not quite clear why you would want to do that.
No.
It's a statue. Anyways, so some friends had assumed that, there's a stretch. They were worried that she was possessed by a demon, and
Of
so
course.
they basically tied her down, waterboarded her, and accidentally drowned her while performing an exorcism. So,
Classy friends.
and you know what? I was mad enough with this, but I was a lot more mad at the fact that nobody got a jail sentence out of
What was
it.
it, like 300 hours community?
300 hours community
Yeah.
service, yeah, and 12 months of surveillance. Plus, they had to sort of like attend a class, presumably to tell them
Not to kill people?
that demons are superstitious nonsense. Hopefully, but I don't know if that's a requirement.
That's a tall order. That's a tall order.
I just can't even believe that this kind of stuff happens. You know, and New Zealand, I don't know if you read this. I wrote this a couple of weeks ago, so you were off the grid,
I
so you
was
probably
off,
didn't hear
yeah.
that. But it was estimated that about 10 years, New Zealand would be outnumbered by secularists. Like,
Okay.
just 10 years from now, if the trend continues. Like, I think they're 35 or 40% of the population now.
Okay.
So they're starting to kind of take over because religious people are dying because they're old. And,
Yes.
no
And
one's replacing them.
waterboarding one another.
Presumably. Well, the whole thing was the water boarders. They were they're of a tribe called the Maori. They're the native Polynesians that settled. I forget how many, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. You got to remember that most of these places have been settled fairly recently. Like Hawaii was the last island to really get settled. It was settled about 1,000 years ago. So it's not been they weren't around there for a very long time. But still, nevertheless,
1/6 of the Earth's life, Jacob. Sorry, I had to throw that in.
yeah.
That's my contribution to the podcast.
You certainly did.
Creation is nonsense.
Anyways, there's not much more I can say about that, other than the fact that I really would wish that they would have thrown the book at these motherfuckers, because it's not just one of those things where you're like, oh, well, that is unfortunate. Oh no, we killed her by performing this. It's the fact, like, what message have you sent out
Well,
to
what's
the population out
precedent
there?
now? Like, religious accidents get you off clean? Like,
Seriously,
or with 300.
This is
whatever.
weird.
Yeah.
It is upsetting. Community service. What are they going to do now?
Yeah.
You know? I
Pick
hope
up
that,
trash.
I hope they have to clean the beaches or something water related. Think about your crime.
It's not just, but it is ironic.
Well, you know, I think to some degree, anytime you're going to be involved in it, it's not as though the people who did that probably didn't feel bad. I'm
Well,
sure
no.
they felt terrible about it. That's why you put them in settings where they're around water or something that reminds them of their crime.
Let the guilt
Punishment,
eat away
hello.
at
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Or that you have to 300 hours of community service to people who've been the victims of botched exorcism. Bam. That would be a motherfucking sentence. It's like, hey, why don't you go around more people whose lives that were ruined because of exorcism, you dummy? I
Yeah.
mean, there's now a 14-year-old girl without a mom. That's great.
But
That's
she has a
fucking great.
statue.
She does have a statue from a hotel.
That's great.
That's kind of good. Since you were off the grid, did you hear about there was this giant trek that was organized by P.Z. Myers? You know who P.Z. Myers
Yeah,
is? I
yeah,
assume? The blogger from Pharyngula, probably the
Pharyngula,
biggest
yeah.
atheist blogger out there. If
Yeah.
you get a mention from Pharyngula on your blog, you're like, woo, traffic numbers. You better fucking get ready to handle that load, because it's a pretty massive one. So he is to
I'd be
many
making the load joke here.
Oh, come on now. You're just such a dirty man. You dirty bastard.
I can't help it.
All right, get your mind focused here.
All right,
We're going back to
P-
atheism.
P-
P.Z. Myers is
Myers.
being somewhat of a, he's a mover and shaker in that.
Yeah,
kind of way.
absolutely.
So they decided to go take a trek to the Creation Museum.
Isn't it for sale? Oh,
No, that's Dino.
Park.
That's Dino Land.
Yeah.
Or Creation
Yeah.
Land. I forget what the fuck.
It's such a hate crush on that man.
What Ted
Hovind, I think.
Hovind? We'll talk about him later if you want.
Okay,
But,
yeah, P.Z. Myers.
So they go over there, and obviously there were a couple scenes, security trying to kick people out, or
Right.
forcing people that had T-shirts that said there is no God, saying like, you're offending people, turn your shirt over and whatever. What I thought was interesting is I read this blog that was from an evangelical Christian that had heard about what was going down and decided to check it out for themselves. And their report was like, I never felt so embarrassed of being a Christian in my life.
Score.
He's like, the way that these people were treating them is like everybody was polite because they had made special provisions saying like, don't go over there if you're going to cause trouble.
Right.
We don't want to cause any trouble. We want them to cause the trouble.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing. That's that passive resistance Gandhi shit where you're like, we're going to go over there and not cause a scene, and they're going to cause a scene.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be the good guys in this, and it worked. It fucking worked.
Well,
lots of attention was.
Isn't that what happened with Expelled as well?
What
Like
do you mean by?
remember they went to
happened?
go see the movie, and then like they all got
Oh,
kicked
yeah,
out.
they got
I think
expelled,
PZ
yeah.
Myers was in that. Was kicked out too.
He was
wasn't
kicked
he?
out, but they did not recognize Richard Dawkins for some reason. Whatever. I guess PZ Myers will in the future will be even more recognizable because I think he's going to look like Santa. He's moving towards that Santa.
Yeah, but
he's our new Daniel Dennett in terms of
Santa
greatest
resemblance.
atheist Santa lookalike.
Yeah, I'll have to. I've seen him before, but he didn't. He had some brown in the beard.
He did, but I mean,
He's getting on
it's
in
getting
years.
peppered. So I'm just waiting for that day where it's all white,
Uh-oh.
and he's the new Santa
We're
at the
gonna have
Christmas
to
party.
pick, we're gonna have to pick a new Santa.
He would be the Santa at the Christmas party. So I thought that was a really smart maneuver because this is the type of thing this is the type of way that we are going to get people to recognize their own the vileness of their belief system. That you don't, even though you call yourself a Christian, you don't believe the same things that other Christians do.
Well, that's the thing. They're gonna and this has been true for at least numerous causes involving religious. Well, I'll say the religious right, but religious people. It's usually they keep alienating people with their ridiculous behavior. No Christians don't want to affiliate with that.
Well, let's take a look at that video I showed you about the girl in Mali.
Oh my God!
Who posted up a video because she had an Indian friend that she was trying to convert over to Jesus. And it didn't start well by the fact that she thought that her friend was really an African.
No, she was half African, half Chinese. Exactly. That's how you make them.
That's what she figured. She figured that Chinese people and Africans sort of made and created Indian people. Really? Well, that's amazing. That must be how it works.
I think so.
Anyways, despite that lack of credibility, what I thought was really funny was that you remember how you mentioned it before, how there's this patronizing element to Christianity where they're like, well, you don't know the truth. Yeah. You're just savages. We're the more evolved faith. We're more truer.
We're just trying to educate you. Don't get all mad just because I told you that your belief system's a waste of time and that you're burning forever with your family.
Why did you get upset? I don't know why they got upset when I told her that she was going to burn in hell and that every family member that's ever died is in hell for eternity.
That's not offensive.
I'm just trying to save you, man. Save me from what? Why don't you save me from your followers, Jesus? Save me from your fucking followers. I've seen that T-shirt. It's unfortunate. I wanted to make it, but
the T-shirt "Save me from your followers." That's pretty classy.
Save me from
That's
your
pretty classy. I also like the Jesus Saves one where he's a goalie.
Well, do you think? Yeah, that one's okay. Do you think that there is kind of this double standard when it comes to Christians who think that religious freedom should only apply to them?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, it's the whole freedom of religion. No, it's freedom to be Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
It's you can't say any. We can be as offensive as we want. We're Christian. It's okay. But you guys, your faith, it differs.
Well, I think they also feel to some degree that if they insult you and they include the "but Jesus loves you," they're generally
it's
okay. So I watched that comment. It's under the bridge. I said that Jesus loves you, right?
It's like the husband who beats his wife, and then but I love you so much.
I
only do this because I love you.
Why didn't you listen?
Why'd you burn the toast? Jesus hates it when you burn the toast.
Don't burn the toast, baby. I got one rule. Well, that and 100 others, but just don't burn the toast.
This is the one you keep breaking.
Well, did you love that story that I put up about this one guy in Texas? And basically, Jose Marcet, and he believes in a very, very rare religion where you're constantly having to sacrifice goats, birds, turtles, lambs to appease your god, who basically lives in the shrine that you make. I assume his shrine is his garage, because you don't want to have that in your living room.
No.
And he's not slaughtering just, one goat and it'd be done.
Right. Well, I know,
he's slaughtering, many animals.
And turtles.
Yeah, that's the first thing. But, before we even talk about how messed up that is, I just want to say, you got to be a cold motherfucker to slit a turtle's throat.
Seriously.
There is something so fragile looking about a turtle. It's like killing a baby.
Its neck already looks like fucking crepe paper, It's...
Yeah, I mean, I've seen turtles do some fucked up things. Like I saw a turtle snatch a bird and break its neck. So turtles don't mess around, yo.
I've seen them eat pizza and
and fight Shredder,
and fight foot soldiers.
I don't think you were watching a documentary there.
Probably not.
Did I ever tell you this really interesting story? My dad ran into a turtle, and I did not know this, but they get really big even in Quebec. It was the size of basically of a how do you say that in English? A tire, I guess that is.
A tire.
Yeah, a tire. I'm sorry. I keep thinking in French for some reason.
What's a tire in French?
A tire.
In Quebecois French.
Exactly. You have to say tire. I was going to say tire, but it sounded like it was the French-Canadian tire. I swear. That's why I got confused.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Anyway, it was the size of a fairly large tire.
A tire.
And he stops by the road. My dad's an amateur photographer, so he grabs his camera and snaps it. And basically, this turtle looks like it's 200 years old. It's got like the craggly skin. It's got like all this moss and that kind of stuff on its massive shell. And it just starts yelling at my dad or something like that while he's snapping pictures. And all of a sudden, it takes off. And, you think a turtle's slow. Motherfucker, that thing goddamn zipped. And he was at the top of a cliff. So it zipped, and it all of a sudden started going down a really steep hill and sliding down. And all of a sudden, it just went like an Olympic dive down a fucking ravine, man. And that was the turtle. And you're just like, wow, that's badass. Anyways, that was my little turtle story.
Digression. But back to the slaughtering.
But let's go back to the slaughtering. So basically, the city hears about this in his hometown, and they're none too pleased with the fact that this man is sacrificing a bunch of goats and whatever, and then eating them a day later. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But basically, the city has been trying everything that they can. They're using hygiene laws and that kind of stuff. Anything they can use to basically nail this guy to the wall and say, you can't do this stuff.
Yeah.
So he's got back to the courts. And, this is Texas here. He's in the state of Texas. So
the hunting state.
Exactly. Number one, it's not
gun
like other
state.
Yeah. So it's not like a lot of animals out there are really being taken care of. And I'm pretty sure when a guy, shoots a deer, it's just as brutal as getting your throat slashed. So let's not fucking beat around the bush.
Plus, I think gunshots ruin the meat more than a slash. Isn't that?
I think it has to do with how you bleed it.
Oh,
that's why you shoot it, and you have to bleed it a certain way, or else the blood will still be in the meat, and it tastes like kidney pie or something like that. There's a way to do it. Let me assure you something. It is a savage process that you want no part of. In fact, if you had to be a part of it, I believe that most of this world would be a vegetarian because, holy shit, it's some hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
I see a scene where a goat's getting slaughtered, and my knees get weak. And I realize that there's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. We should all be like that. We should be disgusted with the possibility of slaughtering anything that's alive. I dig it. I think it's a good emotion. With that said, that's why I think that in the future we probably won't eat meat, but for now it's delicious. And if you want to come
those hot dogs were good.
They were good, and I don't even know what they were made of. We ate hot dogs earlier today. That's because of our really fine budget.
Hey, if we didn't buy the hot dogs, I wouldn't have had money for those popsicles.
They weren't popsicles; they were Revelos.
Yes, but we can't use the brand name.
I know it wasn't even a brand name, and I got to admit to you, they're kind of bad.
Then I will
eat chocolate.
I will eat the rest of them.
Whatever they pass off as chocolate, which is really just wax with some black coloring
brown
on it.
wax. It's brown wax.
It's brown wax. Like I've tasted chocolate, sir. And it doesn't get like that.
Yes, but for $4, you're not going to get a dozen Belgian chocolate popsicles.
Fair enough.
I got what I paid for.
You got what you
no
paid for.
surprises.
You got what you paid for. So, okay. So basically, let's go back to
Slaughterhouse.
Jose here. So Jose goes to the courts, and he's basically saying this is a constitutional issue. I should be allowed to practice my religion as I see fit. And for now, it seems as though it's a bit of a stalemate, and I tend to agree with the motherfucker. I'm like, look, if you really want to have that freedom from religion, you got to accept that most of the time it's not going to look and be pretty. Lots of religions are really fucked up.
Well, it's not going to necessarily work. It also doesn't necessarily mean freedom of religion in your favor. That's the whole acceptance thing, right?
I think that there is something pretty damn dangerous and wrong about slaughtering animals within your own house. The first part is like, if you go to a slaughterhouse, you realize something really early. Like, as soon as there is blood, shit, urine everywhere, which is just it's inevitable.
Happens with death.
Yeah, the venting of bowels, the things spilling all over the place. It's a messy motherfucking process. I really don't think that this should be done in a residential area.
A garage. It's like paint cans, blood, piss, and shit.
I'm like, maybe if it passed certain, let's say, codes, because...
Yeah, but I doubt you're going to have a health inspector.
No, you're not going to have a health
house.
inspector. So that's the first problem. I mean, disease is rampant when it comes to these kinds of biological materials being spread everywhere. And really, where are these goats and turtles coming from? Like, where are you getting this
buy
food
these
supply?
things? Like, that's the other thing. Is you got to, like, how much does it cost to get, like, 3 goats?
I don't know. I don't know the price of goats. I do know that there are still people that trade them for dowries, so they still have to have some value somewhere in the fucking world.
Yeah.
Just seems like a waste too, man. It's like, why do you got to slaughter that goat? Who are you appeasing?
And how much?
Why
meat
do they
are you
need
gonna
so
get
much?
out of like a bird? Like, are these big birds or these like?
The Jews used to kill a lot of birds. That was their whole thing. Scapegoating really first started with killing a lot of birds.
So
there was something that they liked about birds, and then it kind of got into bigger animals. You know, once you start being I'll tell you why I think it was mostly birds. Because when you're broke ass, or when you're cheap.
I was like, is this gonna have to do with long noses and beaks?
No, well, no, but
it
could be either one. I think it's probably mostly broke, because if you're gonna be if any of the stories are true and you're a slave, you're probably not gonna have much money.
Okay, so this isn't Jew hating. This is slave related.
This is slave related.
Okay,
you know, like this is the early part of.
Please direct all your hate mail to Jacob Forte.
Send them all to Artie Adams.
Hey. He loves the Jews.
You just can't date any.
What?
You've never dated anybody that's Jewish. I mean,
are you talking about circumcision?
I'm actually curious about.
Am I airing my?
Well, let's. Do you prefer circumcised or uncircumcised? Actually,
am I actually talking about my sexual preferences on your radio show?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well, you don't want to talk about it. You
I don't look. Why?
You shy about it?
Well, I'm not shy about it. If it's clean, uncut's the way to go, man. You got the pistony action.
Pistony action?
Piston action, man. It pumps a lot easier. You're not stopping on the friggin' head of the dick on your way up.
I heard also it sort of like makes it pretty calloused and what have you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have to worry about that problem. I mean, if he's numb, that's his problem.
Not my problem. I like your attitude, sir.
Not my problem.
I like your attitude.
There we go. The cut of my jib.
I like the cut of your jib.
Or the uncut of my jib.
I'm not a... I'm part of the sort of like the covered generation. You know, my parents did not believe in the barbaric idea of circumcision.
I like turtlenecks.
I gotta ask you, like, there are probably people that are listening right now because the majority of the audience is in the U.S.
Or just shut this off as soon as I started talking about
or maybe
action.
There are probably one or two bigots that listen to the show that don't like gay people. So
well, whatever. Then
they can go fuck themselves. No offense.
Seriously, no, that's okay.
But what I was going to say was basically that in the States, it is something that's pretty regularly done, even with individuals that aren't religious or
they
believe that it's a hygienic issue.
It's a hygienic issue. Yeah,
it's been.
No, you just friggin' clean that shit and you're fine.
Yeah, it's really not that hard.
Yeah. No.
Hey, little boy, do you want to touch your dick?
Lather up your dick in the shower.
If you want them to wash it, here's what my suggestion is. Make a combination of a soap and a lotion. It's always it will be sparkling clean.
Seriously.
You hear me?
You put some Aveeno in the shower.
Let me tell you, it's just like when taking a shower with a girlfriend.
Yeah.
The boobs and the butt, they get like shiny.
Sparkly.
Sparkly. All right, you know what? Let's wrap it up, and we'll catch everybody next week for the bonus podcast. I just want to mention, though, first, if you're listening to this is the free show. We do have a paid show that we strongly urge that you consider becoming a member so you can listen to, and it's only $20 a year.
And I do not discuss my sexual preferences on it.
I think in one of them you do.
Do I?
I think you're on one of the bonus shows.